What's the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So today's video is a bit of a short one, and more a commentary about videos on YouTube and the videos I make, and just a bit of a discussion topic more than anything else. This is something that gets brought up quite a bit when I do demonstration videos. When I try to demonstrate a technique or a concept, immediately it's met with the question of, well, why is this not done on the sparring level? Now, if you're interested in seeing me sparring or sparring footage from my group, you'll find that on my channel, so go down there and have a look. However, I think that is quite a valid question, and it's something that we see more and more these days, especially with social media, where people want to see techniques done at full speed, and they want to see the techniques working. And I totally agree with that, and I am a big proponent of sparring and making sure those techniques work. There's a saying within the Dog Brothers that I stand by, where if you see it taught, you see it fought, and I very much stand by that. However, I often get people saying that my techniques are poor, or they're not good, or they wouldn't work, purely because of me demonstrating something. And I think it's very important for you to understand, a demonstration is not the technique. So for example, if I'm teaching a grappling technique and I lift my head to speak to the camera, I'm not going to do that in a fight. I'm not going to lift my head and speak to the camera or speak to a person in the crowd. So the same is said for a lot of other techniques. If I'm demoing something very quickly, and I have a few minutes at the end of class to film something to demo for you guys, that's not necessarily an accurate representation of how it would look in sparring. So this is a pretty good case in point of what I'm talking about. On the left, we pretty much have what you shouldn't do in sparring, and right side we have what you would do in sparring. Now the difference here being, on the left I'm demoing for the camera, and I have to have my head up so that you, the viewer, can actually see what I'm doing, and more importantly hear what I'm doing, because I don't have a lapel mic. So I need the actual mic that I have set up on the camera to be able to pick me up. Now obviously when I'm teaching and demoing these techniques, there are certain nuances that I'm going to forget, or at the time I'm not really going to be able to get across because I'm busy or tired, or as you can see in this picture, pretty sweaty and tired from training. So often the techniques and the nuances you'll see in sparring, but it's hard necessarily to get everything across in a single demo, especially in a short video. But this is a good example of the sort of thing I'm talking about, where in the demo on the left, it's not something you would want to do in sparring, whereas on the right side, that's pretty much the exact sort of thing that you would want to see and want to do in sparring. So it's a pretty important but interesting distinction between the two. And conversely, if I'm teaching those techniques, they won't necessarily look how they would look in sparring. Often when you're teaching a technique, you kind of have to exaggerate it so that the concept is easier to understand. Probably the most apparent case where you'll see this is footwork. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate, I probably already have had a few slides in here throughout the video, but I just wanted to really emphasize, especially with the likes of footwork, you'll have to exaggerate it so people understand it. Footwork, especially those who've done boxing or kickboxing, will understand the footwork can be very subtle. Something as small as shifting a foot a few inches in one direction, or turning the direction of your foot, can really change your positioning and your outcome of how you're standing. However, when you're demonstrating that to someone, you have to exaggerate the motions so that it's made very clear for them so that they understand it. And then in reality of combat, it changes. So I actually just wanted to insert this here because I think this is quite an important point just about drilling in general, and also something that I saw brought up in the comments of why don't we try to hit each other with the sticks. And as you'll see here, I do actually end up getting hit by the stick. Now I'm not angry at all or upset by what happened here. This is what we actively try to train, and it's something that's very hard to do when you start off. It's very hard to hit someone in the head, and specifically target someone in the head. But you'll see here, this is the reality of what you should be aiming to do in sparring, and this is actually my mess up, not my students. Real slow. Now, just in case you didn't catch it, just listen real close. You won't be able to see it, but you will be able to hear it. Now, like I said, this is my fault. I didn't outline to my student what exactly we were doing, and I didn't do it clearly, so he did what you should do, which is aim for the head. This is something that a lot of people don't get right in their training. They generally just aim out in the air. If you are trying to hit someone with a stick, that's what you should train, that's what you should aim for. Now, if ever we're doing live stick sparring or training like this, we wear masks, we wear protection. For the sake of demoing, we just did this very quickly at the end of class, and obviously when you're tired, that's when mistakes happen. So this is no fault of his own, entirely mine. But it is something very important to note. Now, back onto hearing me get hit in the head with a stick. Enjoy. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at demonstrations or snippets of videos, especially for those people who are new to the channel. You might not be familiar with my sparring videos and the work that I've done, so you might look at the techniques and think, well, that's a bit silly and that probably won't work. So I would recommend go and look at that stuff. Now, I haven't really built up a huge repertoire of sparring footage from my group. I'm working on it. We film a lot of our sparring, but you don't always have the footage, or you can't necessarily find it with ease to find the technique that you're trying to show in one of these videos. And often it's much easier to just film a quick demonstration and show you guys. So just on the kind of final topic with this, I do think it's important to question martial arts and martial artists that you see. And I think especially weapon-based martial arts, the likes of sticks, knives and everything else, to me are the last great bastion of a lot of questionable content and very questionable opinions. Because I think with weapons you always get this argument, and I've had these comments on my videos, I've had these comments said to me in person. People will always say, well, oh, that wouldn't work because I just do X. And you'd say, well, why don't you try that in sparring? And then the immediate response is, well, that's too deadly and I couldn't do it, so that's that. Now, to me, that's like the grown-up equivalent of my dad would beat up your dad. It's not really a legitimate argument. And if something is very dangerous, like there is techniques that we don't do in sparring, if you can't even show that they might work in sparring, or you can't get to a point where you can almost make it work, then chances are it won't really work. So for example, the classic one that we ban from our groundwork is if we're in mount. For those who aren't familiar, full mount, so basically you're sitting on someone's chest. We don't allow people to, almost put a hole in the ceiling. We don't allow people to thrust downwards on their sparring partner, because a downwards thrust with a stick onto a down sparring partner, be it on their face, chest, neck, anything like that, could cause serious damage. However, if you can get to mount and hold the stick up, you can show someone that that technique would work. Now, this, of course, is a topic for a whole other video, but this was kind of important to address in that for these techniques to work and for these things to be seen, obviously people question this material and they want to see that this stuff works. So I would definitely recommend you question material and you question instructors and you kind of make sure that they are reputable and that the stuff they're teaching works. Because I think that classic saying, I don't know who said it, but if you're open your mind too much, your brain will fall out. Always have a good bullshit filter when it comes to martial arts. I really do recommend it because there's a lot of questionable stuff out there, especially when it comes to weapons. Now, like I said, if you want to see sparring footage, if you are interested in more of the history side of things, you'll find that on my channel, so go and have a look. If you'd like to sponsor my work, you'll find my Patreon down below. And if you'd like to try a class in Irish stick fighting or Irish martial arts in general, you'll find that down in the description as well. So what do you think? I know from just scrolling through social media, people will be very quick to jump on martial artists and question their credibility of their techniques, and sometimes it's valid, and sometimes you see people questioning world champions and who clearly might not be the best person to question those people. But I do think it is good to have a skeptical mind. So like I said, what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to open up the discussion on it, and obviously if there's any further videos on this topic that you guys would like to see, or anything that you would like to have me break down, please do let me know. I'd love to do it. So once again, thank you very much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. Trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're really close to it, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and slán.